I will call to order this meeting of the Caledonia Township Board of Trustees. This is our regular meeting of Wednesday, August 20th, 2025. Item 1 is roll call. I will call the roll. Mr. Snoink is absent with notice. Mr. Hermanette?
Here.
Mr. Bradshaw?
Here.
Mr. Harrison's here. Ms. Henry?
Here.
Mr. Zoller?
Here.
Mr. Robertson?
Here.
Item 2 is Pledge of Allegiance and Invocation. Please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We give thanks and appreciation this evening for the opportunity to be here representing our community, doing the work of our friends and neighbors. Please guide our work, help us to work well together and have good outcomes. Be with those who protect us while we're here in the police and military and fire department. We ask that you give them your protection and comfort to their families. We ask this all in your name. Amen. Item 3 is consideration of the meeting agenda. Any board members having reviewed tonight's agenda, any additions, deletions, clarifications? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
Make a motion we approve tonight's agenda.
Support.
Moved by Hermanette, support by Zoller, that we approve tonight's agenda. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. We have an approved agenda. Item 4 is public comment, opportunity to address the board of any items of interest. Does anyone wish to address the board? Okay. We'll close public comment. Board members, item 5 is inquiry of conflict of interest. Having reviewed and approved tonight's agenda, does anyone have an interest to disclose in any of the listed agenda items? Seeing none. Item 6 is approval of the consent agenda. There are a number of items listed there in reports. Having reviewed those, any questions, comments, removals, or is there a motion to approve?
Make a motion to approve.
Support.
Been moved in support that we approve the listed consent agenda items. Any discussion on doing so? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no. Those items are approved. Item 7 are a listing of the reports from boards, committee officers, and staff. Those are there for your review. Any questions, comments regarding the reports received? Seeing none, that allows us to move on to new business. Item 10A is a discussion and motion to approve the posting of the assessor position. I'll throw it to Township Manager for introduction.
Absolutely. So on August 6th, our assessor resigned from her position. I met with the Equalization Department of Kent County to discuss options, and she basically gave us 4 options. We could look into going with the county. We could hire a full-time assessor. We could put it out for contract, or we could do a combination of a contract. A combination of when we put out the position, they could either apply for a full-time position or contract, because there are a lot of assessors that only want contract work and some that want a position. I know that the concern with the county is that it comes at a cost, and currently they don't have the ability to, they don't have the staff, so they would have to hire someone. The county doesn't currently do assessing for any of the townships, but they can do it. They just would need to hire more staff to do it. We do need a level 3 assessor though. We are growing rapidly. We have a lot of permits. We need somebody who knows what they're doing and who's experienced in growing communities like Caledonia. So I think that one of the things we need to discuss is how the board wants to go about hiring and how they want to address, what type of committee, whether it's a search committee or have the personnel committee do it, if they want the position to be posted, and then the interview process from there on out and how they are offered the position.
Okay. With that as an introduction, is there any public comment on this item? No? Okay. Board members, thoughts, comments, questions? The resignation was received on August 6th, but it's effective on what date?
It's effective on September 5th. However, our assessor won't be back in the office because the rest of her time here, she's on PTO.
Okay. And I don't know if it's in here. I know that prior to receiving notice, she had indicated that we were due for an audit. Is that correct? And we have to do some preparation for the audit. Can you speak to the timing and plan for that?
Yes, that's, we need to get stuff ready for next year. I think all of the units in Kent County are doing the same thing. We just need to make sure that that all of our information is online and correct and in order. And so she had started doing some of that. I had asked her to continue to work on that, but I do have the list of what needs to be done. So while we search the things that I can do on my end, I'll work with our assistant to make sure we get all that stuff taken care of until we can find the replacement.
Okay. And one other question before we jump into the options you've presented. Is there a natural, at least stopgap solution where the neighboring township has a person who could just, for lack of a better word, pick up the slack and do it temporarily? Or are we truly looking to either fill the position as is or look at the options? Is there, I guess, a half measure we could take before we decide? Because I'd like to more fully explore with the county taking it over. Hasn't been top on my list of things to change or fix, but I've always thought it curious that we do this on a township-wide basis, and it would make sense, at least structurally, to do it on a county-wide basis. I don't know if financially it makes sense, but I guess I'd like to not lock us into hiring someone unless it's on a pure contract basis. At least have that discussion. Maybe it's smart to continue as is, but.
We can hire a contractor. We still have to pay them. They are required to be an employee, but they can act as a contractor. And we could hire as in a temporary capacity while we explore the option of joining the county. I know that to begin with, there's going to be a lot of time put into the position because that person is going to have to learn the township. They're going to have to review everything and go through everything, make sure it's all correct and updated when the time comes to do board of review and get the values out to people. So it's going to be a learning curve for whoever comes on, but there is the option that we could hire somebody contractually and look at options for moving.
And last thing that I promise I'll let others share some thoughts is I prefer a firm over an individual is my bias, in the sense that similar to engineering, law, our infrastructure alternatives, if we can't ship this over to the county, I'd like a firm so that if someone leaves, we're not back here in a year or whenever we have a vacancy. I like the idea that whether they're going on vacation or part ways, if there are firms that could provide these, that would be nearer to the top than an in-house employee, part-time, and then we have all those issues. So just throwing out, I guess, some of the criteria I'd like us to look at and open it to others.
Well, just go down memory lane a little bit. Back when Laura Staub was our assessor, Brian will remember this, I think there was a point where we had a difference of opinion regarding some of what she was asking for as the assessor. And we did look at, isn't there a way we could go to the county? And the problem was, as Allison explained, is they can do it, but they don't have anybody to do it. So you're grasping for something that isn't there, and if they have to hire somebody to do our assessing, we're clearly going to pay for it, and so I'm not thinking that, it's worth looking at, but if it hasn't changed, I'm not sure how valid an option that is. And I think a little bit that's true if you talk about a contract, we could hire somebody who kind of is a gun for hire, but they're going to have to learn the township too. And at some point, if that doesn't become a permanent position, then okay, now we do it all over again. So I'm not entirely comfortable with that idea either. For all the time I've been in the township, we've had an in-house assessor, part-time with an assistant, and what that does is gives us the opportunity for almost a daily presence in the office of somebody that can have at least some understanding of assessing, which isn't just a once-a-year thing. Assessors do a lot of what they do, or some of what they do, is they have to look at property splits and so forth to make sure they meet, especially if it's a meets and bounds division. They're the one who say, okay, it meets state requirements as far as the land division, and then that same process goes over to zoning, and they make sure it satisfies zoning. So I'm a little nervous, to be honest with you, about not moving forward because we're just reluctant to make a decision.
One of my comments, just as clarification for you, Allison, is on the job description. It says under certification level 2. Is that
Yes.
supposed to say level
Yep.
3?
I have that on mine, just
Okay.
corrected as needing to be level 3.
Okay, perfect.
So I have high confidence in at least the leadership of the county's equalization team. So I do think they would be capable and could do a good job. I think that option, the county would want to they wouldn't be in it for profit. They would want to cover the costs of the position, and that's it. As compared to if we did hire a firm, I agree with Brian, having depth on the bench is important. It's not just a single person, it's a company that has multiple people that are qualified, and they certainly would be in for a profit. I like if we hire our own person again, that they're available and they're more local to answer questions that residents have as they come in. So I see a lot of different pros and a lot of different buckets, and it's not an easy, obvious answer for me currently.
Yeah, I appreciate-
Maybe, I'm sorry,
Go ahead, Dave.
just throw the wide net is kind of see what's out there in terms of, are there people out there that are firms with people? I know some assessors are kind of their own firm, probably more so than Assessing Inc. I know there's some that, and especially smaller entities will provide assessing services for smaller, and then they'll do several. In fact, Laura Staub, who used to be here, she served in Layton at the same time she was serving here. So she wasn't a full-time assessor, but she was head assessor, chairman of the department, whatever. And then Katie at that time was her assistant for a number of years. And then when Laura left, Katie stepped into that role. So it might be better to throw a wide net out there, just say, hey, we're looking, what are our options?
I agree with that, Dick. I also appreciate your point of having someone here, so if people need splits or have general questions. My hope would be that similar to what we do with planning, where we pay for the fully qualified person to be here part of the time, and then have some backup from a staff position, whether that's our assessing assistant or our building department, who I know is getting some background in assessing, that we do have someone here who can give general guidance, and then we have maybe set times where the qualified decision maker could be here. So maybe that's something we look at. That even if it was downtown, if it was the county, like the first Monday of the month, I don't know what we could look at as actually bringing someone out here. Or maybe that's asking too much, but I do agree that casting a wide net, see where we're at, but I don't like the one person equals a vacancy of the entire department reality, that whereas we've avoided that in other operations that I think were wise moves when we did that.
One of the things that I found last few years, the zoning administrator has been taking care of the splits and then turning them into the assessor. So that's not where we have to have somebody in there. It's paperwork. So I'd be less interested in that. I like looking at the idea of a business or a county. If the county's in charge of it and so-and-so goes on maternity leave, somebody has to fill in. Or somebody goes on vacation, somebody has to fill in. Somebody gets hurt. Somebody quits, and it's on them. But I don't want to pay double or triple what we're paying, but we have to see what that looks like.
Premium would be.
Contract is my second idea. My second thought is we have none of this contract worker, because it sounds like there are people out there. We don't know if they're going to be a good fit.
Now, you said, correct me if I misheard, that the assessor of record, or the official, has to be an employee?
Yes, technically, but many get around that by the township will write like a check that's like a small check, and the rest is done through contracting.
Okay.
It's their way to get around it. My recommendation is that we cast a wide net, like Dick suggested. I was told by the equalization department, we don't really want to spend a lot of time waiting and trying to figure it out. We need to have an assessor, so we should be actively seeing what's out there. And I think we can ask for the cost of the county, have them get us numbers, but potentially also put it out for contract and see what we get. The equalizer told me that what we can do is actually ask for like RFPs for them to give us their proposal of how much it would cost, how much time it would take them. So that's kind of the idea through contracting, if you don't want to do the employee route. I would caution against waiting too long before we put this position out.
And how long would you recommend that the posting or the RFPs be posted? If we move forward tonight with a broad net, what are deadlines and what are the next steps?
I think that the next steps are that I'm approved to put the position out. I can contact the county, and then we set a date where the personnel committee meets to discuss the options and brings the best option to the board. And from there, we can start doing interviews and stuff. I can also, there are firms that do assessing, so I can reach out to them too and see if they can give us proposals. Just kind of cast a wide net, see what we get.
So give me date,
60 days?
give me,
60 days is too long.
Can you have it done by September 15th?
yeah, we're meeting tonight because of the urgency of moving forward, but I want to balance that with the candidate pool and proposal pool. So we approve tonight. When do you want to close the posting?
I think if we approve tonight by the 17th, it should be
17th
closed.
is our next
September
About a month.
17th?
Yes.
Is that when we meet? Does that give us enough time to make a recommendation? It should probably be a day or two before then? A day before? Is it the idea that it comes to the board on the 17th then with a recommendation?
I think that's how long we need to have the ability for people to apply out there or to get contracted firms. We're gonna have to have a meeting to discuss whether that's with the personnel committee,
Okay.
which direction they wanna go from there once we get the submittals.
Do you have dates in mind for each of these steps so we can kind of see it through to
So
hire?
I can probably post for an RFP tomorrow, see what we start getting. I mean, I think that around the first week of September, the personnel committee probably needs to meet.
But we won't have proposals.
We won't have proposals. We might have some. It just
Okay.
depends.
All right.
Well, I want to make sure I understand. Option 4 is basically we're doing both employee position and contracted. Is that what you're basically saying in that we can do both here?
We can do both.
Yeah.
There are some assessors that want a position and some that just want the contract. They want to do multiple units.
And have we already done any compensation reviews or comparisons or anything? Do we have any idea?
I was told by the equalization director to put in that portion that will be based on experience. So you want somebody who's relatively experienced. If we hire somebody full-time, that could look like between 60 to 85,000, really depending on their level of experience. Somebody with 20 years is going to want, obviously, 85,000 or more. It just depends on the level of experience and their qualifications.
All right. I haven't gotten a clear recommendation on timing, so I'm going to make one, I guess. Enter it into the discussion. So if we post it, approve it tonight and post it. If we closed it, so we receive things on the 12th, Friday the 12th at noon. Could the personnel committee meet on the 15th to review and recommend? And then we have a board meeting on the 17th. That we could at least have that as a tentative structure. So that gives almost 3 weeks to have it circulated, right? September 12th. Yeah. So,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
and then on the 17th, we could approve with a start date of
The 18th.
TBD, yeah, I guess, as soon as available. So, would that work for board members?
So my question would be is if the personnel committee is meeting on whatever day it was that we're gonna meet,
Yep.
is there going to be an interview process as spelled out, and when would that happen?
That the personnel committee or the search committee would have to hold those interviews. That's what's written in our personnel manual is that.
So the idea is the personnel committee would review the resumes or the proposals and whatever, and then out of that, either say, let's just hire this contractor, or let's not, let's talk to some people, but to me now you've just extended the time that it would take.
But we might need to have a special meeting on the following week. I mean, there's no reason why we can't.
The 24th?
You know, does it even have to be on that Wednesday? Could be.
Yep.
I think that when the personnel committee meets on the 15th, that should be, because the personnel committee is supposed to be the people interviewing, I would send the top 3 to 5 people, and then on the 15th, you can interview them.
We can decide whether we want to interview. I'm open to discussion of,
Why couldn't we close the time to get all of the information by the 5th? That's 2 weeks.
Well, we have Labor Day.
Yep.
2 weeks less a day, yeah.
I think it's tight. Because we're looking at we're looking at business, county, and then individuals, either contract or employee.
What are
So
we-
4 different types.
what deadlines are we running up against?
I think it would take, I just couldn't say off the top of my head. I do know that, you know, we're through July Board of Review and some of that, and I think part of it right now is more or less some of the stuff you see here in terms of what the assessor's duties are, and then what hasn't or isn't getting done at all is field work. And I think that Katie was behind on that because her assistant was new to assessing entirely, so there was kind of a very slow ramp-up time there. So I could ask Marcia tomorrow, she's so knowledgeable about it, that there may be some specific, you know, deadlines,
Deliverable,
target dates
yeah.
that have to be met in the meantime, you know, and perhaps the equalization director would be able to point to some of that stuff too. But I'm just not familiar enough with it to tell you.
I understand, you know, wanting to do it in a short time, but I also don't want to limit our time so that we could be potentially limiting a really good option, you know, by having it be too short. I know that the equalization director, she has contact, all the assessors know each other. So who's ever interested that they know will be applying. And the equalization director is also more than willing to give her recommendations of who she knows and works with, who she believes would be a good fit in the county, which would be helpful. But I think the problem here is that because of our personnel manual, we have to follow a certain structure, which ends up taking a little bit more time to fill the position.
I don't know a lot about assessing, but I bet there's a state association of assessors, so assuming there is, let's make sure we get our posting out there too.
Yeah.
I have already had one person reach out, actually from the equalization office, that is interested in the position, who heard about it through the grapevine. So it is starting to get out there, but once I post it, I'll make sure it's on the assessing state website with equalization director, LinkedIn.
So we don't know for certain what the next deliverable or deadline of this department is.
I think it's going to depend on what the search committee, how they want to, if they want to conduct interviews, if they want to
No,
see.
what does the assessor need to do by when?
I believe it's November 1st for for your final tax bills, because you can reassess properties if they,
We don't know.
I don't want to say, I'm sorry, let me correct myself. A property that was non-homesteaded during the year, but somebody bought after May 1st, they can, for the winter tax bill, they can get the homestead exemption, so all that stuff would have to be inputted. before November 1st, if I'm not mistaken. That's one thing, and then you gotta get, but the tax bills should be easy. It's just redoing, or vice versa, somebody was
Okay,
homesteaded and
So,
then non-homestead for the
let's
second half.
assume that's one deliverable. How many of those are there gonna be? We're not talking about our entire tax bills. That's,
Maybe.
you know,
That's not
you're
some
saying
huge
something was
job.
non-homesteaded, so it went from homestead to becoming a rental property or whatever.
Correct, or vice versa.
Okay, so the status changed.
Again, admitting my lack of knowledge here, but I think there might be specific deliverables, due dates that do need to be met. I think that the downside of delay is that just the day-to-day responsibilities that are part of the office start building up.
Okay.
And then somebody coming in would have to kind of unwind all that. I would like to say that I really appreciate assessors, because when people call me up to complain about their tax bill, I say, you need to talk to the assessor.
I'm just the collector.
That's all I do is send the bill.
Well, for purposes of moving this forward, I'll make a motion to authorize the township manager to post the assessor position for both employee and contracted candidates with compensation based on experience, and to proceed with the recruitment process in accordance with section 3.6 of the Administrative Policies and Procedurals Manual, with a closing date to receive proposals and applications of September 12th.
Support.
And we'll figure out the rest, I guess, from there, but I'd like to know more about.
Well, in the meantime, I think the manager should be calling the equalization department and find out exactly what dates.
Deliverables.
Yes.
Yep. So
of specific-
this gets us into the market. So any discussion on that? We'll call that question. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
You opposed, say no. Any additional discussion or subsequent motions regarding this item? Seeing none. Public comment. Second, new chance? All right. Welcome. If you could state your name, where you reside, and you have up to 5 minutes.
Do you need to, oh, okay.
Hi.
My name is Zach Abbott. I live, up in Jasonville Farms. I know a guy who can do assessing. His name's Tyler Takema. He lives in Byron, and he does assessing for a few townships in Ottawa County. I think he's got a level 4 assessing, license.
Let them know of our posting. That'd be great. Tyler, what's the last name?
Takema, Tacoma.
All right. Thank you.
Yep.
And Zach, I believe you've reached out in the past, and we've had at least email discussions, maybe? Are you,
Phone call.
a phone call? Yeah. So, yeah, good talking to you, or meeting you in person.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. I see no other public, so there will be no other public comment. Any board comment? We'll start with Mr. Hermanette.
Nothing for me.
We had a planning commission meeting on Monday, and we did approve a strip mall with 8 commercial units at the Craft and Broadmoor location at that meeting. And I understand that Ladd's Golf Car, they want to build a new building, will be coming back to us at our next planning commission meeting. That's all I've got.
All right. 3 quick items. We do have a planning commission vacancy, and so I've reached out to a few people and have not been able to secure a candidate yet. I will say, in addition to the vacancy which we have, we recently appointed Kyle Clement, who was a former school board member, who has subsequently become a present school board member, was appointed to fulfill the term of a vacancy on the Caledonia School Board, which I think is awesome. One of my intentions was always to have someone from the village and with school connections to try to have that Venn diagram overlap. With the appointment of Kyle, and I haven't been able to discuss it with him yet, school board meets on the 3rd Wednesday of every month. Our planning commission meets on the 1st and 3rd Wednesdays of every month. Mondays, sorry, but they meet on the same day. How's that? They meet on the 3rd Monday of the month, and they start at 6, so there's some chance it could work, but I do have concerns that there's now a conflict of commitments. And so we'll have to, I'll have that discussion with him on how we would manage that, but I don't think saying, well, I can make every other 50% isn't a passing grade. So as much as I think his community history and he has a financial background, I think there's a lot temperament that lends itself, but I don't know that he can do both jobs. And I just sharing that with board members, I guess wanted to let you know that there could be a change. It's not because of qualifications, it's because of a scheduling. I don't believe a change is scheduled to make one person fit either. So we'll look at possible workarounds. But I know some people have given me names of possible planning commissioners, and I will continue to try to find somebody. Well, second, we recently approved a park and trail planning consultant, vision consultant. Those meetings are taking place. We had a pretty productive meeting today with Kent County, who of course is an important partner of ours. Some interesting things happening there. I think I can announce some of them, or at least confirm there. One is that they're doing a revisioning of Caledonia Lakeside Park. So that is probably the oldest legacy county park we have. Great space, but it has ball diamonds from days where we used to have, the church softball games. I think they're looking at, should we look at better uses, different uses, and things like that. Another interesting data point, the county has 0 pickleball courts in all of their parks. I thought that was interesting. How do you avoid having pickleball courts in 2025? We also had a meeting with the Village of Caledonia today, talked about village properties, our properties within the village, and how to coordinate on that. And some interesting concepts emerged regarding the wastewater treatment plant property, other trail connectors, things like that. So hopefully we'll continue to see. We intend to be at the Caledonia Harvest Festival, which is a pretty large community event with a tent and a survey and some swag to draw people in, but I think there's some good community engagement opportunity that will be occurring to engage people on parks and trails. And then finally, I know some of my fellow board members attended the Dutton ribbon cutting. So the Dutton School is opening, but as you go to the school, you'll see that the adjacent trails were there too. So not only are we getting a great new addition and investment in our community with the school, but I think the trails that we are now there and those that we have planned will make the school better, and the 1 + 1 will equal 3 when it comes to the things that are going on in that quadrant there. So thank you for everyone and the support on that. That is all for me.
Just want to remind you all that we do have another election coming up in November for the Kent ISD. And also, Stephanie and I, my deputy clerk and I have applied for and been awarded a $10,000 grant and for election accessibility. So that will be going to Alaska Baptist Church to put in a handicap accessible door for them under the bottom steps where everyone comes in and out to vote. So that's kind of a cool thing that's going to be happening, and they're thrilled that we're helping them with that.
Cool. Mr. Zoller, Mr. Robertson?
Motion adjourned.
Support. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you, board members.